Hey guys, it's Shaylin and I'm here today with another writing video. In today's video, we're just going to be having a little chat about writing selfishly. I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while and it's something that I've alluded to, or not alluded to. It's not like I was like skittering around the point, but it's something I like kind of chatted about a couple times. I talked about writing selfishly a bit in my video where I just talked about how I wrote my book. It's come up a couple times. But I felt like it just deserved its own video. So this is really unscripted. I jotted down like 3 points that I wanted to cover. But the main point of this video was just to have like kind of a relaxed discussion about writing selfishly and writing for yourself. Where to begin? I used to not know how to do this, for one. I used to be bad at this. And I do think that a lot of this comes down to just some of my overall personality flaws. I definitely am someone who has issues with. Do we have to get into my own issues? Oh, I guess we do. No one is forcing us. I'm choosing to. Let's not remove agency from the situation, Shaylin. I'm a people pleaser, but not in a way, you know, I don't mean it in like, it's like, oh, what's your worst flaw? Oh, I'm too nice to other people. No, I mean, I legitimately don't know how to have my own opinions on things sometimes. I think of everything through the lens of what other people will find acceptable, or what other people will want me to say, or what will make me the most, you know, non-controversial, most palatable version of myself. This is something that I've struggled with my whole life. I can be a doormat and I don't know how to have opinions on things. Oftentimes I'll leave a conversation and a few hours later be thinking about it and be like, I don't think that. And realize that in the moment I got into agreement mode and just agreed. And it's like, why do I do this anyways? We're trying to talk about how this relates to writing, not all of the torment, anguish, and warped sense of self it's brought me over the years. How's your day going? This naturally extended to my writing. When I would write, this is from when I started writing all the way through to quite recently, I was always thinking so much about the audience. The thing is, I know there are a lot of writers who operate this way. There are a ton of writers who it's their modus operandi, is that the phrase? But the way they write is they think about the reader and what the reader will be thinking. I was doing this in two ways where I was focusing too much on the reader. First of all, I was just writing bad writing that was manipulative because I was writing based on the reaction I wanted the reader to have and not the story I wanted to tell that would elicit whatever reaction it elicits. You know, like I would think, this is the end of the book, so I want to make readers sad. Guess I'll kill some characters. Rather than telling the best version of the story, thinking of story first. I was thinking reader reaction first and then constructing the plot, not the other way around. All the books I wrote in like high school, I think this is something that I was doing, and it didn't lead to good writing. It leads to manipulative writing, shallow writing, and not the best structure. You're just stringing the reader along from emotionally jarring plot point to emotionally jarring plot point. But I think in another way, it evolved to a type of self-criticism. I don't really know what the word I'm looking for here is. While I was writing, I would get caught up thinking, and it was, I think, an extension of the first thing I was doing. I would be like, will people like this? Will they like this character? And I would start imagine negative things that people would say in a review, but I would also sometimes try to imagine like the positive things. It's like I saw my own work through the lens of a hypothetical reader. And you know why that's a problem? Because that's not a real person. I was writing to please fake hypothetical people. My sense, my vision for what I wanted the story to be got really warped. I was constructing the story based on emotional responses I wanted readers to have. My understanding of what I actually wanted the story to be would get lost in the shuffle, and getting feedback on my work was really hard at this point in time. I think it's because I didn't have a strong enough vision for the story, personally, based on just what I wanted. Like, Shaylin, what do you want the story to be like? I don't know. And so then when I would get feedback that was negative, it was really hard for a couple reasons. First of all, I think it was hard because it's like all I did was write based on what I thought other people would want. So what do I do if they don't like it? But also, getting some negative feedback would really completely upend my understanding of the story. Because in my mind, what I had to do was create the story. Like, I think maybe what it was is I was writing to write a story that the highest percentage of people would like. Just we're aiming for just purely highest number of people, percentage of people who read this will enjoy this. And so when I would write from that mindset, which wasn't really a conscious mindset, I don't think. This wasn't conscious. I don't want to be like this. But what happens when you write from that mindset and then someone reads it and doesn't like it, you have to completely reframe what the story should even be. What you think the story should be is based on what other people like. See this mindset, this reader first mindset. And again, I'm not saying this to be like elitist, but I think it's maybe in some circles more of like a traditional genre mindset, where like genre fiction, it's meant to be like a satisfying, enjoyable story, and so you gotta kind of think about the reader and like, is the reader going to enjoy this plotline? I get it. This isn't like hating on genre fiction. I'm not saying that genre fiction writers don't write for themselves. I think genre fiction writers are better at balancing their own desires for the story and expectations of what their readers will want. One of the many reasons why I'm bad at writing genre fiction. That, and I have no sense of logic, so I can't write magic systems. I do think that there are people who are in a more traditional like genre writing camp, and I see these people comment on my YouTube videos, and they have this very reader first mentality. You don't matter as the author. What you want the story to be doesn't matter. The issue I have with that is there isn't the reader. Nothing you can do will write a book that's just palatable for everyone. And if you try, it will be so boring that no one's gonna like it. The only way to write a book so non-controversial that everyone likes every aspect of it is gonna be to write a book so boring and so drained of life that no one's gonna like it. Like, there's not gonna be any zest. There's not gonna be any pizzazz. It's okay as a writer to have opinions about your own story. So yeah, I definitely see, especially in YouTube comments from patronizing dudes. Sorry to gender stereotype, but it's true. Leave these reader first comments about how like that's the most important thing. And I don't agree. Like, I'll say it. I write selfishly and I write for myself. And I always thought I was writing for myself, but I wasn't. I was writing for other people. Because here's the thing, and I don't think this is groundbreaking, I think this is pretty obvious, but I'm gonna say it anyways. If I write a book, there are gonna be people who love the book and there are gonna be people who hate the book. Literally go to Goodreads and look up any book with a significant number of reviews. There are going to be positive reviews and there are going to be negative reviews. That's how it is. People have these things called tastes. You just can't write a book that appeals to everyone. There's no such thing as writing for the reader because there isn't one reader. It's a huge range of people who all want different things. Obviously, like, there are different target audiences who like different types of books. But even within your target audience, the people who are perfectly suited for your book, the people you're marketing to, there are gonna be people who will end up loving it and people who end up hating it. That's how the cookie crumbles. That's why I think writing for the reader is a kind of fruitless pursuit that for me only led to unhappiness. It created a paradox where I could never like my work because I was only ever thinking about whether the reader would like it. And as soon as one person didn't like an aspect of my work, it became a problem because now I hadn't successfully written for every reader, which you can't do. I honestly think in the end, as I've embraced the fact that writing is a purely selfish act that I do for myself only, I get a lot of happiness when people read my work and love it. I do love sharing my work and it means so much when people like my work. I want them to like something that I also like. I really think what's most important is that you love your book. Let's say I publish a book and I spend years writing it and a lot of effort, and it's something I put a lot of care into. I write it to be as good as I can make it and I publish it. And then a reader buys the book, say they buy it at full price, hardback, so they've sunk maximum investment into this book. They read it, they hate it. 1-star review. Yes, I failed to write a book that this person enjoyed. But what's more important? That the person who, spent 5 hours reading and $30 is let down? Or me? Someone who put 3 years and everything that I have, emotionally, all of the care in the world, into this book. No matter what I do with this book, whether I write it for myself, whether I write it for other people, someone's gonna leave a 1-star review. I hope that in the end, they're leaving 1-star reviews on the version of the story that I love the most and I am proud of. It would really suck if I changed some stuff in my book that I didn't really want to change just to appeal to the reader, and then people still aren't gonna like it. Then who's happy? No one. I'm not happy with the end product, neither are you. You're always gonna get negative reviews. I know this is old news. No one is shocked by this. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking. But seriously, you're always gonna get 1-star reviews. I would much rather get a 1-star review on something that I'm happy with, that I love fully, than a 1-star review that I sacrificed some part of my vision for. Because it's gonna happen anyways. And I think a lot of the time people, and by people I mean these patronizing reader first dudes who leave comments on my videos, they equate this mindset I write for myself and I'm gonna do what I want with my work as I can't take feedback. This bothers me so much. Oh my god, the amount of dudes who've left like long comments about how I clearly can't take feedback on my work. I actually can. Those aren't the same thing. You haven't seen my video on getting criticism on your work, I'll leave a link to that. But the thing is, once you learn to write for yourself, it's actually a lot easier to take feedback and you can implement feedback much more effectively because you know what you're trying to write. You know, before when my vision of what I wanted for the book was so influenced by other people, getting feedback was like, I don't even know because I don't even know what I want. Now, getting feedback is just a matter of deciding if this is useful or if it's not. Does this get me closer to my ideal vision of the book or does it get me farther away? I probably still implement most of the feedback that I get. I'm not against getting feedback. Feedback is super important. Implementing feedback shouldn't mean sacrificing what you want from the story. Those things can perfectly happily coexist once you reach a certain point of skill, I think, and awareness. You know, I'm sure when I was younger, I couldn't necessarily live by this because I didn't necessarily have the strongest sense of writing craft. I might want to include things that were redundant, and I know there's a lot of things going on here at once that might seem contradictory. Personally, I don't think any of this is contradictory. I think these things can all coexist. Like, you can write for yourself, implement feedback, only implement the feedback you want while still paying attention to craft, and maybe a couple other things. More and more I've gotten to the point where I've realized that there's no like ideal, inherent, perfect version of my story. Part of the reason why I think I always struggled with the revision phase is I felt like, here's my first draft, and out there somewhere is the ideal version of this book. Like it was an equation with one answer. Now my job is to solve it perfectly and correctly. That's not the case. What I want for my book can just be what I want, and that can be the best version of the book. And other people can still enjoy it, I hope. You know, there's not just one version of that. You can have your book be exactly what you want it to be. And I talked about this in my video on finishing my book. I think I really started writing for myself around the same time that I found my writing style. It's like, once I actually found my writing style, which was around like late 2016, I would say. Definitely not early 2016. It was an arc of a year, because early 2016 I wrote a fantasy book that doesn't sound like me at all and was written with a huge reader-focused mentality, and I don't like the draft because it's just not how I would want it to be because of all the things I just talked about in this video. But then at the end of the year I wrote things that feel like myself and start to be my style. When I found my writing style that I think I was able to then write for myself, because I had this vision of what I wanted the story to be that wasn't so easily corrupted by any note of feedback. I kind of learned how to use feedback to get closer to my vision of the story rather than necessarily farther away from it. And I guess I should say, as a disclaimer, yes, sometimes there are notes that you're not gonna like that you should implement. Maybe you've included something kind of problematic, or maybe there's something you're attached to that you really realize is redundant. But I think in those cases, you will realize that it is best for your vision of the story, and it is best for the ideal version of the story that you want to make that edit, even if it's kind of painful. I don't mean that sometimes it won't be hard to make the edit or that you're gonna love it every step of the way, but I think you can get to a point where you're happy and kind of excited about the prospect of editing your work and implementing changes, and the changes that maybe you're less happy to hear, you can still understand when you still should implement them and how those things can coexist. I've talked about this before, but with Honey Vinegar, the novel that I finished writing back in March, very near the end of the book, like days away from finishing the book, I realized, wait a second, there was never a point where I was thinking about what people would think. I never thought about, oh, will people react this way? Will they think this or whatever, whatever. I really just wrote the book how I wanted it to be, just for myself. And I love it. I think it turned out well. I say, that's just my opinion. I'm sure there are things I need to edit, I'm sure, but I'm quite happy with it. And I think I'm happy with it because I took this very selfish mentality. This is like literally 2 months later, or like a month later. I'm just jumping in with a quick interlude. I realized that I've just explained this really badly, and I just wanted to quickly elaborate on this. I've basically noticed that, especially since I switched to writing literary fiction, which obviously that's not, this can apply if you write genre fiction. I'm not saying this to be like only in literary fiction. Just for me personally, that switch was kind of like a light bulb moment for me. I stopped caring about whether readers enjoy the story. That stopped being a concern for me at all. It's really not a concern. I don't care about it. Whereas when I was younger, that's what I cared about. Now I've realized all I really care about is, am I communicating what I wanted to communicate effectively, or as effectively as possible? If I'm not doing that, then I need to revise. You know, if I get feedback and I realize, oh, I'm not communicating what I was trying to communicate, then I need to make edits. I need to revise that. For me, enjoyment is a moot point. I really don't care if people are enjoying the story, because to me, that is too subjective to work with. And it's not personal to me. Like, if I am enjoying the story and I'm communicating it effectively and I'm communicating it how I wanted to communicate it, if you don't enjoy it, I don't really care. Like, cool beans, that is okay. Not enjoy it, it just means that inherently this story was not for you. Because if I'm communicating it as effectively as I can, and you don't like that, this is not the story for you. You were never meant to like this story, and that is okay. Not everyone likes every story. As a reader, I don't feel that books are for me. Books are for the author. As the reader, I don't think I have any right to demand that stories be for me, or appeal to me, or cater to me in any way. If I don't like how it ends, if I don't like something that happens, that is only on me. It's not up to the author to have done it differently. That's kind of how I approach writing for myself while implementing feedback. If the feedback leads me to, you're not communicating effectively, what you were trying to communicate isn't coming across, and sometimes that doesn't just mean language, that can mean the story, that can mean you don't have the necessary plot beats to communicate the story that you were trying to communicate. This can apply to all areas of editing, developmental, line, conceptual, everything. But if I'm not communicating what I was trying to communicate, then I need to revise. If I am communicating it properly, at that point it's like, okay, well, I can change it so this person likes it, but then domino effect, someone else now won't. Change it for that person, now someone else won't. So for me, getting feedback and writing for myself is just about making sure I'm communicating the story how I want to as effectively as possible. The main point is just like, write for yourself, dude. Writing to please other people doesn't make me happy, and it's my book in the end. If someone doesn't like it, so what? That used to feel like the end of the world to me. If someone didn't like something and I wrote, like, boo-hoo. I think it comes back to what I said about at the beginning of the video. I've always been an insecure person, so it was hard for me to reconcile with someone not liking something that I wrote. It felt like a personality flaw. That's just how it's gonna be. Sometimes people won't like stuff I write. I don't really care anymore, as long as I like it, you know? I sleep very soundly at night, and the reason that I'm now fine if people don't like my work, if people don't like it, like, whatever, that's inevitable. I don't appreciate it when they come and tell me directly in my YouTube comments. That's a bit of a dick move. Some of y'all could stop with that. But I really don't care if people don't like my work, because I like it and I'm happy with it. So no loss to me, man. I'm gonna close up this video now because I think I'm just repeating the same points over and over, as I often tend to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to hear your experience with this and writing selfishly. Or maybe you genuinely do feel the opposite, and maybe that's not what motivates you, and maybe you are better motivated by thinking about the reader. That's chill too, as long as it makes you happy. If that's the case, I would love to hear from you in the comments. You know, we've all got different experiences with and relationships to our own work. There's no one right way to do things or to feel about things. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, you can always send me an ask on Tumblr, and I'll see you in another video.